Hey, welcome friends. It's 3:30. We're going to get started today in our webinar. We're super excited that you're all joining us today. We have an amazing amazing panelists we've gathered today from teachers all around Oregon, specifically Beaverton area. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and have Katie go to our next slide for us. You're okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about our 5 big things that we have kind of basically come up with as far as online learning and remote learning or distance learning. And these 5 things, as you can see, communication, engagement, feedback, office hours, and teacher reflection are really the 5 things that we feel are pretty strong components when it comes to engaging our students and also with our teachers and how they're going to use that time to reflect on what's happening right now. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and let Katie introduce herself and Ryan as well. My name is Chris Giles. I work for the Beaverton School District, and I'm really excited that all of you are here today, and thank you for joining us.
Hello, everybody. I am Katie White. I am one of the district TOSAs, and I am joined by Ryan Hoxie and a wonderful set of panelists. So Ryan, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Ryan Hoxie. I'm a district TOSA along with being a building technology specialist as well. I guess what we also wanted to make sure is that everybody knows what an amazing group of panelists that we have gathered together here. These are folks that are doing exactly what you're doing, and that's distance learning on the fly here, figuring things out every single day, adjusting, and then making that better as we move forward. So I want to go ahead and take a moment and allow all of our panelists to introduce themselves. We'll go ahead and start with Kat Crenshaw.
Hi there, I'm Kat Crenshaw, and I teach 5th grade in Beaverton.
Awesome, thank you, Kat. And then we have Bettina.
Hi everyone, I'm Bettina Curl. I also teach 5th grade at ODE Elementary School in Beaverton.
Thank you, Bettina. We also have Lindsay.
Hello, I'm Lindsay Bailey. I teach 3rd grade at ODE Elementary in Beaverton.
Thank you, Lindsay. We also have Selena.
Hello, my name is Selena Rosenberger, and I teach kindergarten at ODE as well.
Awesome, thanks, Selena. We also have Chris Ambrose, which small plug for Chris. He was my son's 3rd grade teacher, and I'm so happy he's here. Chris?
That was a good year. My name's Chris Ambrose, and I currently teach 3rd grade at Raleigh Park Elementary School in Beaverton.
Thank you, Chris. We also have Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel Smith, and I teach 5th grade at Beaver Acres Elementary.
Fantastic. We also have Lysandra.
Hi, I'm Lysandra. I teach 5th grade at Ridgewood Elementary.
Fantastic. Thanks, Lysandra. And we have Julia.
Hi, I'm Julia Hittner, and I teach 4th grade at Raleigh Park Elementary.
Awesome. Thanks, Julia. So we really do have a variety of folks and voices that are going to tell us a little bit about their everydayness that has become distance learning. Katie, you want to move to the next slide?
Sure.
Awesome.
We're going to kick it off with communication with students, and this is a topic that is never been more important than right now. So we have a couple panelists that are going to share their thoughts around communication with students during this remote learning time. Who wants to start?
I suppose I can go. I'm Kat Crenshaw, 5th grade, and I felt like when we started all of this that I wanted my students to be able to go to one place for their one-stop shop for everything. And we had already been using Canvas in the classroom, so that's really my primary platform for communicating with them. I do use Zoom meetings, but for everyday information, for posting assignments, for giving feedback on assignments, Canvas is really my go-to. We have daily Zoom meetings, twice a week whole group, daily small groups, and then I do give them feedback in Canvas on Zoom meetings. The Zoom communication is not academic feedback really so much as it is informative for the students as far as expectations generally, and then a time for them to connect with each other. And then I have been using also Book Creator. as a place for them to journal digitally and for me to give them feedback as well, kind of as I would in a writing or reading workshop format.
Thank you, Kat.
And kind of piggybacking on top of that, I think Kat mentioned something. Our primary program we use is Seesaw. And we found, like, when you first started, things that the kids were already familiar enough with in the classroom that they could navigate it pretty independently. That was very important. And so Seesaw is a two-way communication. We use Google Classroom for some writing where I can comment back and forth. And then again, we use Zoom as well. More informally, I'm adding to it, but using it for social. We have a lunch bunch each week where we have a topic or question, kids can go around and see each other. And I've been hosting a little math talk twice a week in the morning. One thing that I'm doing that's a little bit unique that I'm glad for communicating is my kids have a little experience using WeVideo, and I've used it. I have a background in video. So I make a morning movie, and one of the primary things that allows me to do is recognize students directly, and they can also, I post their work. So if I'm commenting on a good job that a student's done, I can bring that work up so the other kids can see it, and that's been a motivator. And then also, if they create cool things, we have a student showcase at the end of each movie, so their work gets like a little bit of a broader audience, but that's been pretty powerful for us.
So along with that, it's slightly different in kindergarten, as we know. I feel like one of my biggest priorities has been communicating with the parents as well. Most kindergarten teachers in Beaverton are using Seesaw as their way to get everything out. And it took a little time in the beginning to have parents learn this with them, because, you know, it's easy to teach them in the classroom, but once they're out, we have to teach the parents to teach them. So the biggest thing that my team has discovered is we need to not only have a bunch of Zoom calls with students, but we've been doing Zoom calls with the parents. A lot of question and answers, and just talking to them about the realities of, you know, how this is affecting them at home, and just doing what they can, because it's a very stressful time. And one way that we've helped them with that is creating a schedule for the week too, that has everything mapped out for them in the beginning, exactly how much time things should take, and when Zoom calls are and everything, just so they can plan their week. And I found that that's been very helpful with my families as well.
Thank you very much. That completes our panelists on communication with students, unless anyone else wants to chime in and share something. I'd also like to remind you that we have a Padlet, and it's been shared in the chat. And this is a collaborative one, so if you're a panelist or an attendee or anyone joining us and you have access to that, then go ahead and put your own ideas on communication with students and all our other topics in there. Any other thoughts before we move on to the next topic? Okay, I'm going to take that. Silence is no. Moving forward, we have engagement with students. So this is a big question mark for a lot of people. How are we best engaging our students during this time, especially what are we, week 7 now, where students are starting to see some of the same routine come through, and it's not quite as exciting as the first couple of weeks. So what do we have, panelists? And I think we have the same 3 panelists coming up for this one as well, on engagement with students.
So this is where learning more about the platform you're already using is helpful. So right off the bat, I did some additional PD and found out that Canvas is a wonderful way for group discussions to be an engaging thing for students. So I immediately implemented something that I learned, and I started a weekly group discussion where students could ask questions and they could answer each other. And then I'm involved with that with them as well when there are questions that obviously they wouldn't have the answer to. And then I also give them an opportunity to engage in a way that is non-academic, such as asking the question, use a GIF, meme, video, or picture to show how you're feeling today on a Friday or on a Monday. Or the current one is they have to respond using any creative form they want about their GOAT memory, greatest of all time memory in elementary school. So those are just a few things. Then I always try to do something fun, and I really use the breakout rooms in in Zoom for that?
Well, when I think of engagement, this one, every day is a PD day now, it seems. We're learning so much, and I'm finding on the positive side, a lot of the things like within Seesaw that it can do that I didn't know it could do, as our TOSAs have been pushing out curriculum. You see how they design lessons. And one of the things that's for me to kind of keep those third grade eyes on me, finding a variety of delivery systems. So there's been a bit of a learning curve, but I'm getting better. I use screencasting. And I've used a green screen. I've always wanted to use a green screen. Well, I learned how to use a green screen, but I was impressed with the things that you can put within a green screen. If you're doing your reading lessons, you can put anchor charts and you can embed things in there to keep kids interested in it. And as well, at the end, you can add the activity that they're doing and speak directly to it. So a lot of modeling, doing some PD on iPad recording using Notability, and then just doing a little more live teaching with the through Zoom, using a little cheap table stand, and I put my iPad up on top and learning to do kind of my live cooking show with the math manipulatives or things underneath it. So just learning a lot through that, of just applying a lot of technology. We're all kind of becoming media moguls in a sense from home. Whatever we have, we use.
Great, thank you. Any other thoughts on this?
Yeah, sorry.
Bettina. Thank you, Bettina.
Sorry about that. Me? No. For engagement, we've added a creative piece in for our 5th graders, and in our school, we actually buddy up with our kindergarten classes. So we've been coming up with Creative Friday art or STEAM-based activities that both kindergarten through 5th grade can do. And I'll be putting some examples of what the weekly requests have been into the Padlet with photo samples that students have created. And that's been a way for us to get parents and other family members involved. The students have had such a fun time. They get the activity on Friday, and then we ask them to turn it in by Monday so they can work on it whenever they would like. We've done things from creating movie trailers with your siblings or pets. They have created nature art using whatever they found, whether it's in their backyard or a walk that they went on, and recreating famous paintings, portraits, or sculptures has been really fun. So I'll put samples in there. And then just really quick, one thing I've done with my read aloud, because no one really wants to stare at their face the whole time you're reading a chapter book, I've been taking the kids on visits to different countries or cities. And so I'll play a video and share my screen with the kiddos, and we'll go on tours of different cities, and they're just scenery videos. And then I'll ask a question, you know, at what second or minute did you see the Eiffel Tower when we were in Paris? And then that just kind of checks in with them about their engagement for the read aloud. And they enjoy watching something other than just my face in the screen. It's been a lot of fun, so.
Can I chime in on that one as well?
Yes, go ahead, Rachel.
All right, so I've been doing kind of a daily Zoom meeting with my class, and just to kind of mix it up, most of that is just focusing on engaging with them and building those connections as a class still. So we play a lot of games together in those meetings. We've played Pictionary and charades and Boggle. We have like a mystery bag activity. And I put, or I'll put in the Padlet kind of how we've played all these games, but just kind of adding some variety and some fun so they keep coming back. And most of my class is showing up every day for these Zoom meetings, so that's been great. I've also been using chatter pics to send out little announcements, kind of similar. So it's not just my face, like I just got a puppy, so my puppy has been sending us updates on when we need to submit things, and that's been helping too.
Thank you. These ideas are making me want to be in your class. They all sound like so much fun and great ways to engage students, especially a puppy on ChatterPix. That's so fun. Okay, don't forget about that Padlet. If you shared an idea and it's not on there yet, please go ahead and put it on there. And also, if you are attending and have some ideas, because we're seeing a few things come in the chat, please go ahead and add those to the Padlet as well. So now we're on to feedback with students. This is where the students are able to kind of measure Are they doing what you want them to do? And it's really tricky when we're not face to face in the classroom and getting that immediate feedback. How, panelists, and we have Rachel, Lysandra, and Lindsay up for this one, how are we providing feedback to students in ways that's going to be meaningful and help them to know they're on the right track, they need to adjust, need to redo something? Please go ahead and share with us your ideas.
I can start for this one. We use Seesaw again, so I've been trying to respond to everything that they post with either a voice or a text comment. Sometimes the voice comments are easier if I have a longer comment, and it supports my students who are getting overwhelmed with the amount of text on the screen. And I try and post in that relevant time, so in the same day, so they're getting feedback on what they're working on that day. In my class, Seesaw settings have been modified so that students can't see each other's work unless I repost it, which allows me to give them some academic, honest feedback while still protecting their privacy from their peers. But then we have other ways to kind of allow them to comment on each other's work. I've also been using Flipgrid, and that kind of captures the whole class's response in one place, and then I can respond to those with a video response back to them, and students can respond to those as well. So if we're like looking for ideas about our writing, I think that the student feedback is really valuable as well. And then in Google Docs through Google Classroom, I've been providing writing feedback, which was just how we did it in the classroom as well a lot of the times. And other teachers as well are popping into their writing and into their Seesaw to provide comments on their work. So it's really allowing us to collaborate in lots of different ways.
And I'll piggyback on that. I teach third grade, so we have been using some Google Documents and Google slideshows and things like that, but more of our activities are through Seesaw. And because so much of my teaching is asynchronous right now, just in how we're sending out the math activities and things like that, my feedback is so important to the kids to give them individual nudges and to let them know they have an audience. Because if they don't feel like anyone's paying attention, they're not going to try their best. And that's what I'm always trying to improve, is their effort and the deeper thinking that they can show. So I do try to respond to everything that they submit so that they know their work is valued and to help motivate their further thinking. Depending on the task, my feedback might just be clicking on the heart on Seesaw. For example, if they're doing a read aloud and taking a picture of their visualizing, that might just be a heart from me. But if it needs more specific, more in-depth feedback like reading and math, I will give that to them through Seesaw. I will do some audio recordings, and I'll also do some written feedback. I have noticed with my third graders that they either don't notice the audio feedback or they ignore it. So I'm switching more to the written feedback, but I'm giving it in short little bursts. And one thing that I'm doing as far as a nudge to push their thinking a little bit deeper or to help them correct mistakes is I'm giving it to them in a form of a question. So why do you think this happens? Or what would this mean if? And by giving it to them as a question, it's hooking them in and they want to answer it. So it's increasing their responses, it's increasing their motivation. At the same time, it's pushing their thinking a little bit more.
That's a good segue. I just wanted to touch on what Lindsay was saying in regards to the feedback that I'm also using Seesaw quite a bit. And just to give you my background, this is my first year teaching 5th grade. Last year, I actually was teaching preschool in the district and was not using technology at all. And it was actually like fiercely opposed to technology in the classroom. So it's been quite the experience this year. So as this process began, I just felt so overwhelmed. I'm not someone who has a big background on like how to use all these different apps. Luckily, I'd use Seesaw a lot with my preschoolers just to report to families. But I really had to kind of focus and think like, okay, what am I going to get the biggest bang for my buck with my students as far as supporting their learning in this new challenging environment? And I really thought feedback was key because I'd already known the research that shows how much feedback can boost student results. So that's where I decided like, well, you know what, I'm not great at these other things and that's okay, I'll figure it out, but this is what I can really focus on. So one of the things I wanted to say about the leaving voice recording feedback, I've noticed that if I do leave that, I also will write a comment right under it and say, please listen to this and comment. And then the kids do seem to notice that better, because I was also noticing they weren't picking up on that feedback. And then something specific to Seesaw that I discovered that's really helpful is if you send a student's work back and then go into the editing mode, you can actually record your voice, and it will record the drawing tools. So I'll just draw right on their work, which has been so helpful, especially with really like tricky concepts in math, that I'm like, how am I going to explain this to this child? It really makes a huge difference. But then what I realized is I need to make another blank page down below for them to then fix their work on. So that's been super helpful. But I just would say that overall, think about which areas need the most feedback and put your time there. And just like the previous presenter said, some things just get a like because we don't have enough time to comment on everything in depth. So just really prioritize that and realize that your students who are striving and struggling the most are the ones who need the most immediate feedback. And then our kiddos who have a lot of experience and are on track, you can kind of be more reflective and take your time on that feedback and give that to them later.
Thank you, you three. Those are some wonderful ideas. And I think if you haven't put them in the Padlet, I just want to remind you to do that again. Also, if people aren't using Seesaw, it's fine, it's totally fine, or Google Classroom. There are other ways to use or to provide feedback. And if you have any tips or tricks around that, go ahead and put that in the Padlet as well. So we're going to throw this on over to Ryan, and Ryan's going to lead us through the next couple of slides.
Yeah, leading us to our next topic of office hours. And I think that the name office hours, in terms of like elementary, that's just not a term we really use. But the concept is something we have been using for years, whether it's small group discussion, whether it's one-on-one work with a student. Office hours has always been traditionally, I got to go talk to my professor. Even my high school daughter isn't experiencing office hours as we saw it there in college. But we're going to ask our elementary panel now, what exactly do their office hours look like with their students, and what are they doing to make it more meaningful? Rachel, do you want to start off?
Sure. I agree, the name office hours was a little intimidating, and I wasn't getting a ton of students coming, or any students coming on their own, when I just had my open Zoom office hours. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I've started calling it Math Club, and I really sell it as like a time that we're going to work on math, and it's been really fun. I like try and start with like a little puzzle or a math talk, and it's kind of grown as we've gone through the weeks, and we've had enough kids the last couple of times to even branch into some breakout rooms. I think it's helpful for them to have like a specific thing that we're going to work on, because it's a big ask for an elementary student to like self-regulate that they need to come and ask for help in an office hour setting. So having something specific that they're working on has really helped. The other way that I've kind of engaged students is that I've specifically invited them to my office hours, whether in a Seesaw comment or with an email to them or to their families, just to say, hey, I'd love to check in with you, come at this time, and I send them the Zoom link. I do keep the Zoom link for my office hours the same every day, and it's from 2 to 3 every day. So just kind of keeping it consistent has helped as well.
Awesome, thank you. Julia?
Yeah, Rachel, I love your idea of calling it like a math talk or a math group, because that will really invite students to come in more. Right now, I am doing kind of like the old school Zoom meeting. I sit there for an hour, hoping that I'm going to have students call in. I would probably say on average, I have like 1 or 2 students per day call in and ask for help, whether it's how to do the activity or just where to find a resource. So right now I am trying to think about how I can revamp my office hours to get more students participating. One thing that I also do with my office hours though, we have our reading intervention teacher. She calls in 2 times a week to my office hours, and she holds a small group, a reading group, the same students that she was working with before school got out. So they call in twice a week, and they use that office hours time to go into a breakout room where she can still do her reading intervention lesson with them and then support them with their reading activity for that day. And then 2 times a week, on the opposite 2 days, we have our ELL teacher call in, and he works with some of his ELL students or other students that just need some extra support in writing. So they go into their own breakout room, and we just do it during office hours to try to keep that consistent time with the students and try to cut down how many times they need to call into Zoom and join. But I currently right now am looking for ways to improve office hours to get more students engaged and participating. So Rachel, I think I'm gonna have to call you and get some ideas for that math group time that you do.
Awesome, Julia. And thank you for your honesty there and your reflection on your practice as we're just kind of having a conversation right now. Lysandra.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate, Julia, how you're using your office time to collaborate with your co-teachers. That's a really smart idea. Thank you for sharing that. I agree with Rachel that it's a lot to expect of elementary kids to self-advocate for themselves. And so that's what I've tried to sell it to my 5th graders as. I've told them, you know, when you go to middle school, high school, college, your teachers and professors will value you asking for help more than anything, and that is going to really set you up for success. And so I told them this is a way to do that. You come in every day. I always have it at the same time, 1 o'clock, which I put in the afternoons, hoping that kids would try to get the work done and then see what kinds of problems they're having and bring those to the 1 o'clock time. And I just really sell it. Like every time I have a Zoom meeting and send emails to parents, I say, that's what this time is for. And I really hope that if parents are struggling at home to support their children, I tell them your kid should be on the call at 1 o'clock if they're having a hard time. That's what this time is for. It's my job. I'm here. That's what my job is, to help. And I've also had to be a little bit flexible. Like I noticed that I had a student who's a newcomer. Luckily I speak Spanish, so I was able to help her, but I was realizing that it was kind of monopolizing that 1 o'clock time. So now I added another time, and I'm calling it like kind of like Spanish Club. And so I say, hey, if you want to learn some Spanish, if you speak Spanish, you want to try doing some of these lessons in Spanish, you can join us. If you just want to sit and listen to Spanish, anyone's welcome. But it ends up usually being her and I, and I can kind of tutor her, which has been helpful because she was actually really far behind. I feel like I'm actually helping her more than I was able to in the classroom. So that's been a benefit. So just being flexible. And then another thing I noticed, I had kids coming to the open time just because I think they want that social connection. So I last week did we did it in preparation for wanting to make cards for moms or grandmas or other people, and just kind of had like a casual time where we could do art together. So I think that was helpful too, because sometimes I'd start the call and everyone's just sitting there. I'm like, anyone have a question? They're like, no, I just wanted to say hi. So I was just realizing they had that need for socialization. So that helped.
Awesome. Thanks, Lysandra. Do you mind putting your Zoom information in the notes so I can come and do Spanish hour with you? I'd be okay with that. Kate, do you want to move us on to the next slide there? I think it works out really well that we have our next topic, which is teacher reflection, because we're actually experiencing that right now, right here, as our panelists are starting to even reflect upon the way that they're navigating distance learning and what are the things that we can start to change to bring it in. I thought Sandra said it really well. How do I sell this to my kids? And that's part of what we're doing here, is where we're competing in a digital world. And sometimes distance learning is not as attractive as like TikTok or YouTube or anything else out there. So as we're starting to think about our practice and how we can create experiences for our students that are engaging and meaningful. Rachel, what are you doing as far as teacher reflection goes?
I feel like I'm reflecting all the time. It's kind of like a constant process of kind of seeing what works and seeing how many students engage with certain things, and then also giving myself and my students and families some grace that, like, we're not going to respond to everything. I can't respond to everything, and neither can they. So kind of picking my battles a little bit and really following up on some things that I'm really hoping that they respond to, and then just being okay if some things don't get responded to. I think that's been kind of the biggest growth for me, is that engagement in this process looks a little bit different. And if at the end of the day, my students remember that we had a whole bunch of fun in this crazy uncertain time and we connected together and they continued working on some of their skills, then that's what I want them to come away with.
Awesome. Thank you. Julia?
Yeah, so reflection right now, I think, really is our most powerful tool that we have, because it enables growth to continue happening. And it's, I mean, you just saw it happen right now on the video. It's constant, and it's just a cycle of reflect, change, make better, and then reflect again. So I think right now, just my biggest reflection that I've had so far about everything, I think is very similar to Rachel's, where just the fact that my students are engaging and they're mentally healthy, they're social and emotionally staying healthy, and they're participating, like that is something that we need to celebrate, and not just crank down on their academics the whole entire time, and just be, you know, you're participating, you're doing your best, and I'm really proud of you. But it's really different than in the classroom, because when you're in the classroom and you're teaching, you can stop partway through your lesson and be like, wow, this isn't working, I need to change it. And you can do it like that. But when doing it, whether you're teaching asynchronously or not, it's sometimes that reflection comes after the lesson or after the kids have turned in your activity and you're like, oh, that's not at all what I was really looking for. So it's very different, and it's an adjustment. And it's just a constant string of growth and being okay with the fact that you're going to fail and things are not going to go as you planned. But as long as you take in that reflection and you can turn it around and make it better for yourself and for your students. So that is, I know I kind of rambled a little bit on that one, but that's kind of what I'm focusing on, reflection right now. And my students' voice is very important to me. So I always ask them every day, every week, you know, what can I do to help you? Is there something that I could change to make it better for you? So I really value their opinion in that process as well.
Fantastic. Thanks, Julia. I think you also have the new hashtag reflect, change, make better, reflect again. It sounded pretty good. Lysandra, do you find yourself reflecting quite a bit, especially with the change from pre-K to 5 this year?
Oh yeah, it's been, I mean, it was already quite the year. Just such a huge change curriculum wise. So absolutely, it's been an incredible year of growth for me, and I have just had to have grace, and maybe that kind of set me up for this, because all year I've just faced that lesson, you know, lesson after lesson, like, okay, I just figured this out and now we're moving on to this. And that's kind of how it's been with this, I'm sure, for everyone. Just when you feel like you've got it, there's some kind of big change thrown in there. So we've had to be so flexible and just try to keep optimistic and keep at it.
Absolutely. And this is a large topic. Anybody else on our panel have anything that they'd like to add to our conversation?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, you know, with kindergarten students, I think in the beginning, I was trying to figure out a way to get the most engagement. And we were kind of struggling as a team a little bit in the beginning, until we realized you really do need parent and family involvement with those younger kids. And just, you know, being real, you know, I have 2 young kids at home as well. And once I incorporated them in what I was doing, and my family saw what I was doing with my young kids, the engagement and everything changed after that. We have so many more kids on there working with their families, and it's really just become fun for them. And that's what kindergarten should be. I mean, we want to learn, but it needs to be fun too. So I just wanted to throw that in there and know that teachers who have young kids, you can do it.
That is a really great point. Thanks for bringing that up. But then also tell us a bit behind the scenes at your household. I know that that's a very large struggle that many of our teachers are facing. Anybody else have anything to add to the teacher reflection from our panel?
I wanted to add one thing, and you kind of already touched on it, is that parents are a huge part of this too. A lot of them are working from home and may not have time to work with their kids, or there's just a lot of hard moving parts going on at the same time. So like what a lot of people had said, I'm always tuning in with my students and asking them, what could be better? What's confusing? What do you need? And they really need a lot of social time. They just want to be together, but also asking the parents once in a while in small bits, like what's going well for you? How can we help you too? Because all of that goes together, and talking with my teammates and my colleagues, what's going well, what's not going well. So always just being open to new ideas and being open to failing forward, as our superintendent called it, and just giving ourselves grace, like many people have said, to try things and fail and figure it out and try something new, because that's all we can do right now.
And do it, we do well. Okay, anyone else? All right, Katie, you want to move on? Okay. The next slide is just redirecting us back to our Padlet, where hopefully you've been able to consume some good ideas, maybe starting to add some ideas or resources that you're using with your class, with your students as well. There's nothing better than walking away from a webinar like this with a pocket full of resources. And I think that a Padlet is a really easy way to simply go and grab what it is you need to connect with somebody you haven't connected with before. So we want to give you a little bit of time to make sure that you've been able to jump into the Padlet, have some time to step away from the conversation for a minute and maybe read over some of the different folks that we're connecting with today on the left-hand side of our Padlet, with different educators you can connect with. We also have each one of our main ideas at the top there, whichever one connected with you. Take a look and see if there's other resources that a teacher has added, or maybe there's something there that you can put down. There might be even a submission on the Padlet now on brand new names for office hours. I think that might be a pretty hot topic now.
Hey, Ryan. Hey, thanks for sharing. Hey, listen, we are going to go ahead and leave this, our stream going on for just a few more minutes. So if you are visiting with us, if you're joining us today's webinar, we're going to go ahead and continue to stay on for probably about 5 or so minutes, which means if you want to go ahead, like Ryan said, and look at that webinar, look at that Padlet list, which I'm telling you right now, I've been watching the Padlet just grow like trees. It's awesome. So we're going to hang out for about 5 more minutes. If there's somebody in our audience who truly, really wants to share, like, oh my gosh, something I'd love to share, I'd like to ask the panelists. In about 30 seconds, if you want to raise your hands, I'll go ahead and unmute you, and you can go ahead and share or ask a question to the panelist. As far as our panelists is concerned, when I do go ahead and turn off our live stream, I'm going to have all you just kind of hang out for a few minutes, and then we'll go ahead and end our webinar. But right now, is there anybody in the audience who's joined us today who would love to kind of raise their hand, ask a question, make a statement, share a thought process or something like that? So if you want to do that, go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll go ahead and unmute you. If not, we'll wait for about another minute, and then we'll go ahead and turn off in about 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay, so this question goes to Chris. A while back in the chat, someone asked about when you mentioned green screens and the software you were using as you were learning to navigate with green screens. So I was wondering if you could share that.
Yeah, so that was kind of I let my fingers do the walking. So I just looked, and I use a program, an app called Do Ink. And so I'd never done it before, and I know, so I went to Do Ink, and what a teacher recommended, use it with his kids. So if they figure if his kids can use it, so I thought, well, if I learn it, I'm going to teach my 3rd graders how to use it as well. And one of the advantages that I found with it is that it has 3 tracks. So you can have your video track, your background track, but also you can move an image to the side. I don't know if all green screen apps are like that, but I found that were really powerful. So I could use anchor charts from like Lucy Calkins and things. I could weave them right in while I was reading, along with reading next to a stream or something as I'm down in my old basement. But then I also would bring it into WeVideo, because our district has that. And then in WeVideo, I could kind of sweeten it before I pushed it out to kids. So it was just cleaned up, trim the edges, and get the excess parts out that I don't want. But Do Ink was the app I used.
And then Julia, she has her green screen she's using right now behind her. So she mentioned before, so I don't know if you're using your green screen while you're doing Zoom meetings or anything like that, if you could share.
Yeah, sometimes I use it. I took pictures of our school, the gym, the cafeteria, our classroom, the library. I took a whole bunch of pictures before we were not allowed back into the building, so I'm able to throw up some of those pictures behind me. So if I'm doing a read aloud, I can be in the library. Sometimes when we're doing a math lesson together on our morning Zoom chat, I could be in the classroom. It just kind of sets up, they kind of never know where I'm going to be that day.
I really love that. That was such a good idea, such forward thinking, Julia. That was amazing.
Hey, we see another question in the chat that just popped up. It said, how are you capturing and communicating progress to meet students and families where they're at? It's a great question posed by one of our guests who are visiting today. So if one of you want to go ahead and either look at that question and then respond, that would be amazing.
And then before anyone jumps in on that, Katie, can you go to the next slide just so that we can let people know we will be offering more webinars coming up this week and next week? So make sure to check back on the Oregon Educator Network for following webinars. And then going back to grading, sorry.
I can respond. Since we're really focusing, I don't know, it's so hard because we're not giving grades per se. So our principal recommended that we track participation and like assignment completion and kind of express to the kids like every Monday is a clean slate and a chance to start over. So like for the kiddos who were like not participating at all at the beginning, we framed it such as, okay, that was last week. Let's focus on what's ahead. Let's set a goal. How many activities are we going to get? So one thing I've been doing is the kids that I noticed that have been struggling to get work done, I'll send an email to the student, but CC the parents so they're aware of it. But then I'm phrasing it more positively to the student, like, hey, this is great. I saw that you got these 3 activities done this week. So next week, let's set our goal. What should our goal be for next week for improving how much you're participating?
And to add on to that, I have an Excel sheet for every single one of my students, and on there I have just a little chart that shows what activities they had for every day, and I just keep record of, did they try it? If they didn't, I mark it as incomplete. If they tried it but they didn't finish it, I put it as attempted because I know that they're at least engaging a little bit. And if they complete it, I mark it as completed. And then it is on a Google Excel sheet, so I'm able to share it with that student and their parents every week, just as a communication of, this is what your student's gotten done so far. And I always put it in a very positive way, always leave like a compliment sandwich for them. And then the students that just have all incompletes, I make sure I give them phone calls home and just say, what can I do to help you? Can I help you guys get onto Zoom? Can I help you guys access Epic for reading? So just making sure I'm phrasing everything in a very positive way, while also notifying families and students and parents how much they're participating every week.
Hey, Julia, is there any way for you to do like a blank copy of your spreadsheet and share that to the Padlet?
Yes, I can do that.
Awesome.
I just wanted to, one thing about tracking student participation. If you are using Seesaw, we found that if you tag each activity, if you tag each activity with a skill that's dated, so sorry, of course he would do that right now, a skill that's dated for that week, you can go back to the skills and select either a day or just the week to look at how many of the activities the students have completed for either the day or the week. And that's made it a lot easier for us in 5th grade to see what parents we need to reach out to or what students to help, pick up that engagement again.
Don't ever apologize. I love that we can just bring life into our space. Like this is it. This is how we live our life. So this is awesome. So that, Bettina, I commented in the chat, like, please go ahead and write that little snippet that you just mentioned in the Padlet. Fantastic. And I think Selena wanted to mention something else, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and mute.
Actually, that is what I was going to say. So I should have taken over for you since Arlo is screaming. It really has been a game changer for us in kindergarten too, is doing those skills. But I also just wanted to say too that we are also doing Google Sheets and tracking engagement, and our principal as well has one for the whole school that we have to go in and document too, which has made it really easy. It's kind of color coded, and so as soon as you are seeing who's coming to Zoom calls and doing activities, we just go in there and add it. And it's been, I think, when not grading, comes around, going back to that is going to make it really, really easy for us to write comments and report card.
I love it. Like, to me, I would consider that the collection of evidence, students completing, not completing, whatever it is. I mean, as a middle school, high school teacher, I would consider that my grade book, my evidence of things being completed by students. So I love that. Hey, listen, friends, it's 4:15. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and end our show today. So for all of you who've joined us, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for joining us. This makes us, it makes my heart melt. I love seeing other friends joining us. And the panelists, you have done an amazing job today sharing. And Katie and Ryan, thank you for hosting and leading off our discussions today. As Nicole mentioned, we are going to go ahead, and we're actually having 3 or 4 more sessions coming up. On that last slide that you see there, that's just a picture of the OEN, which is basically the Oregon Educators Network. And so we have about 3 or 4 more sessions coming up. We're going to be doing one on what's remote learning, another high school we're going to go ahead and revisit the secondary high school panelists that we did previously. And I think, Nicole, I forget, we have another one coming up too. But all those are going to be streamed on live YouTube, because I know that some school districts are blocking or are basically preventing Zoom from being watched effectively at school. I'm assuming on the devices, but we are going to go ahead and publish those on YouTube. Today's session will be recorded, so we'll be making sure we're going to go ahead and post that somewhere on the Department of Ed's network. So we'll make sure we get that out as well. With that being said, panelists, if you want to hang out for just a minute, and then for the rest of our friends who join us, if you want to leave, that's awesome. If you don't, I'll boot you out. But have a fantastic day anyways, and we really appreciate, again, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much.